Reike is now warning about a gasoline shortage. By the end of April, it could happen that our gas stations will no longer be able to supply you. Walter Steinmeier is trying on his own to cozy up to the Muller regime. And maybe a Russian drone, well, maybe it did hit an Estonian power plant, or maybe it was just like last time. But maybe a false flag operation. We'll take a look at that today. Midday news, and I'd say let's get started right away with the first point.
Because after Frank-Walter Steinmeier called the Iraq war a violation of international law and thus went against Chancellor Merz, the calls for restraint from the head of state are getting louder.
But now he's facing massive criticism, precisely from his own party and the Christian Democratic Union, who ultimately want to decide for themselves what constitutes a violation of international law. However, the mullahs back there, I would say, are open-minded towards Frank-Walter Steinmeier. And also, well, the Alternative for Germany also supported the whole thing again, expressing themselves in that way. And when I look at these statements, and at the same time, Katharina Reike has just given an interview to Bild newspaper. We won't have any fuel left starting in April. And so the question is, to what extent can we maybe send ships through the Strait of Hormuz after all? If I may ask you for just one thing, YouTube doesn't want me to put out this kind of content, to tell you the truth out there. If you could leave me a like and a subscription, it would help this channel a lot to regain its former strength. And maybe get one or two people to stop voting for the Greens, the Social Democratic Party, or even the Christian Democratic Union. Thank you very, very much.
Cheerful handshakes with then Mullah President Hassan Rouhani in Tehran in 2015. Thank you very much.
By the way, the situation here is a bit unclear. Iran is currently saying that Donald Trump is negotiating with himself. But at the same time, they also say that ships are now allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz again. And I think this time it might even be from Frank-Walter Steinmeier. At least that's how I imagine it. Yes, it was an extremely clever move. So in order to possibly avert the looming energy shortage for us, but I have to say, this situation remains exciting. This time I won't go out on a limb and judge any of these things. I can only imagine that the people in the federal government, let's say, are really getting cold feet right now. At the latest, when the gas runs out in April. Just like Katharina Reike says, then we have some serious problems here, and then we really have some serious problems. Because then the entire supply for the Germans, I'll just say it simply, will fall through, including when it comes to food.
Merz and his cabinet deliberately did not emphasize a possible violation of international law by the United States attack. Instead, they preferred to point out the danger posed to Israel and the Western world by the Mullah regime, and obviously do not want to risk their relationship with the United States over this.
And now this is where things get absolutely absurd. Just listen. While Donald Trump is distancing himself more and more from the Social Democratic Party and Christian Democratic Union, and even, I won't repeat that in such a distinguished group as we are here, but right now a meeting is being arranged in Berlin. Between whom exactly? Between United States representatives and the Alternative for Germany, who actually think that's pretty good. That maybe someone should tell Donald Trump that he made a mistake here and that he should admit it publicly. Again, the United States government doesn't want to have any henchmen. They want people on equal footing. And not just any, sorry for the harsh words, but not just any lunatics who rob their own people. That's the last thing the Americans want. But hey, Friedrich Merz has apparently positioned himself wrongly once again in his life because he can't properly interpret the term Nazi national interests.
That's it. When Russia is involved instead of Iran, Steinmeier seems to view international law's importance differently. As foreign minister, he did not mention Crimea's annexation as an international law violation in the Minsk agreement.
Yes, that's true. I mean, back then, I don't know if you know about this. But by the way, 58.5% wanted this annexation and 58.5% of the population wanted to join Russia. Since NATO was also advancing further and further, there were, I would say, a lot of real signs that all of this was going to happen. That's why it was really a violation of international law against the majority of the population. But most people actually wanted it. I'm not sure if I would really categorize it that way. By the way, something also came from Russia to Estonia now. But whether that's really true, we want to take another look at that in a moment because there are actually a lot of possibilities for speculation.
For a news flash that just reached us, I have it. A drone from Russian airspace is said to have hit a power plant in Estonia, specifically the chimney of the Auer power plant.
Yes, and that also happened in Latvia where drone parts also fell down. However, nobody knows where they actually came from, no one was injured, and there was no damage. Different media are now reporting on this in very different ways. Yes, it probably didn't even happen, and nobody knows where this drone actually really came from. That makes me wonder if nobody knows where the drone came from, and yes, that's right on the Russian border. How do they actually know that it was a Russian drone and not a false flag operation? I mean, we've seen that happen quite a few times in the past. Just think about the house in Poland that was, I believe, shot down by an F-32. Yeah, and then they also said, yeah, Putin's drone destroyed the house. I would still be very, very careful with that. But there's one thing that really makes me think a lot about the whole situation. While things are heating up in Iran and it seems like it could all be over soon, Ukraine has somehow, well, become unimportant.
Apparently, they presented Iran with a 15-point plan to end the war in the Middle East.
And whenever there are other global conflicts, suddenly something happens with Russia that shifts the focus back to Ukraine. And let me say this very, very clearly. Only a fool would think badly of this. And now I have a brief comment. I wanted to do another live stream today, mainly for my community. I really made an effort to cover that up a bit throughout the whole video. But my wife just came from work to the hospital, and I don't know if I'll be able to do another live stream tonight. However, my focus right now is more on my wife. I have to wait anyway because she's still in the emergency room. And accordingly, I don't know if I'll be able to make a video tonight or when it will happen. Thank you very much for your understanding.